Okay, so for today's call, at least wanted to take a little bit of a look at like just gym protocols and different things surrounding, I would call it more like the administrative side of stuff. Um, so not a super exciting call today, but it can be a very important call for coaches. More on like the second part of what I talk about. You guys that are prepping or thinking about L3 in the future, all of the articles that I put into the app, those are all study materials. There's an additional one that I put on, I think it's Wednesday, that is like a 52 or 3 page PDF. That's also one of the materials. I wasn't going to have you guys read that for the call today. But good to read through, gives you some ideas on like liabilities and stuff like that. That one's probably a good one too, that if you are at a gym that is like the Wild West and none of these things are happening, which I think none of us are, um, could actually protect yourself by getting some of those things implemented. With that being said, once we get through all the material today, we should have a few minutes on the back half. If you guys want, we'll kind of use that as like a little bit of a free for all. So like an open forum that if you have anything that you're questioning, could be about your training, someone else's training, coaching, just any kind of questions unrelated to today, feel free. We'll ask and we'll just kind of open up the floor. Should have some time in the back half. All right, other than that, I'm just gonna kind of go in order for the first two, the blood protocol and the infections. They go very hand in hand. Just to put some of these ideas like in you guys' heads. One, because we're athletes and we don't want to be coming in contact with some of that stuff, but then especially as coaches on the floor, knowing how to properly deal with it and also protect yourself, as well as members, obviously. So the blood spill, pretty much to sum that up, a bleach product, gloves, some kind of disposable bags, to put that stuff in when we get rid of it. Paper towels or like a disposable brush. So basically anything that's coming in contact with the blood, if we're cleaning up after somebody, we don't have to ever use it again. Did I miss anything? That's pretty much it there. With the blood, a lot of times as coaches, we ask members like, can you clean that up? That's my first step. I let them go spray it. Usually with a lot of the disinfectants, like you can get them with bleach in it or something like that. Like you don't have to have the member using the one with bleach, or whatever you guys are using in their gym, like have them go ahead and wipe it since it's their own blood. But then I would follow back with it with like that bleach product and go ahead and clean it too, because not that any of us are like this. Members do things very half-assed sometimes, and they don't really even clean it well. And then you have a class coming behind, that's putting their hands on a pull-up bar. It's happened to me where I was coaching and someone didn't clean something, and I didn't know they ripped, and I put my hand in blood while I was coaching, and everyone got to see it. So just like double check and double back those things. Most of the time, we're going to deal with barbells and pull-up bars on stuff like that happening. Occasionally, a box. So just like kind of know and be aware of that cleaning, I think can be important. And like I said, if you're taking level 3, there could be a question on that. This is part of the study material. That's pretty straightforward. Any questions? The one thing I did read, if it was like some kind of like carpeting material or turf, which some gyms have turf in it and then people bleed, that after you clean it, give it like another spray and just let it dry and sit like with the bleach with like a second spray, just because it is very fibrous. That one's pretty easy. That one leading into infections. Just very good to be aware of. I don't know if you guys have ever come across members that you're like, let me see your hand, or they show you their hand and you're like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? That's a little more common, I think, than we realized. So just being aware as a coach that people don't wash their hands, that people do rip and try to avoid those kinds of things. Like we need to kind of just be aware and on top of it, because especially when we start to talk about an infection, if they don't take care of it, like I don't have to tell you guys, it can get really bad eventually. But just looking for like really bad redness. So if they ripped and they show you their rip and it's like really red, really inflamed, especially if they maybe start to have some like lines getting drawn from it. That's like a go to the doctor right now moment. Uh, I've had a couple people with hands that have showed me that I'm like, dude, that's some kind of fungus, and like I don't want them touching everything because then they're gonna potentially give that to other members. So just being aware of that as a coach is I would say important. Um, the one thing I always do when I do find somebody that rips, which you usually know when someone rips in class, the moment WOD's over, I go up to them and like, go wash your hands. So I think if you just kind of take that practice in as a coach, you can just cut a lot of issues out immediately. Um, like I said, that's level 3 stuff. Just being aware of it, I think, can save you guys a lot, right? Any questions on that? That's pretty straightforward. Cool. Not that that's so much like gym policy and protocol, but I kind of figured let's just nail out some of the boring stuff today with it. All right. The next 2 articles, those are all about like signing waivers, documents, pre-screening athletes, that type of stuff. Did you guys have any immediate takeaways with that before I go through my list?
I mean, the part Q. I mean, I don't think anybody's really ever going to do that. To be quite honest, I think that I think it'll kind of turn some people away.
I
Even though
think
it's not like you're not asking like for. Go ahead.
So I think you're 100% right about that. Like I've never been to a gym that pulls out a separate paper like that Part Q that's asking about conditions. However, a lot of times in like the waiver liabilities and informed consent, there is boxes they have to check that talk about medical condition.
Yes.
So it's there, but it's a little more disguised, I would say, because I do think you're right. I think if you have someone that comes in the gym and they're obese and they have had some issue, and all of a sudden they're reading the sheet and it's basically saying like you shouldn't participate if you have XYZW. I'm like, there goes 50% of our population, right? Because a lot of people that do walk in the gym are walking in the gym for weight loss and to improve their health. And we also know that even though people are going to have some of these conditions, that they should exercise, right? Um, so a lot of times it's like blended in, but I do agree with you. I think having a totally separate sheet may not be like the smartest, wisest thing. But if you think about informed consent, that's just like a both party acknowledgement, right? So if I sign a consent with you, at least, like I'm consenting that I'm going to give you workouts, I'm going to train you, that there is benefits to it happening, there's risks to training and yada yada yada. You're agreeing that those things are happening. On the flip side, your agreement to me is potentially that you've also disclosed that you have had a heart condition in the past, or you know tore your ACL when you were in high school. So then I know to how to properly scale and modify and start things off and go through with you as well. So that informed consent is kind of a part of like that part Q as well. Are you saying all this stuff to remember when you're signing them up? No, they're probably not even reading it and they're probably just initialing and going, right? Um, More or less, you're just protecting yourself. That being said, the pre-screening stuff, that is part of our job. That doesn't mean we have to be, going through with the form and paper and checking boxes. Like I have been to places that kind of do a pre-screening thing, but it's a little more tailored around like activities, injuries, things like that. But we do need to know what the person is coming into our gym with their history, things like that. So that's a very easy take a second, ask questions, get to know that person a little bit more before actually coaching. Justin, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, this makes me think of a big topic that I've experienced in the yoga world, and it's going to apply here too. Is so you find out that the athlete has sprained ACL or they had knee issues, whatever, back in high school, and you ask a question or it comes up in the waiver. In the yoga world, sometimes teachers say, "Do you guys have any injuries?" it just opens up this can of worms kind of thing. But so now you know that the person has had an injury in their knee. Am I supposed to be this educated professional in the medical world and know how to design a workout or how to modify a workout for this person? I mean, I'm pretty knowledgeable in this world, and I do not feel comfortable when someone says I've had some sort of, disc injury. I know things that you should probably avoid, but at the same time, it's like we're taking on this role that I think
Responsibility.
sometimes is not our role. That's a doctor's role.
So that's a really good statement and question. I'm gonna kind of walk through the entire thing. You're right. There's definitely a line that we need to know that's out of our professional scope. Like if I'm telling somebody, oh, I can, be a physical therapist for your knee because you have knee issues, that's not my job. That's a professional's job. They need to go to that. I think there is a point in time when someone has done PT and they've gotten the green light from the physical therapist that I can step in and kind of fill that gap. But when somebody comes and they have, let's use your knee example, like, they tore a ligament in high school, the knee's not really been the same. Then I can just apply what I already know through like my CrossFit methodology or yoga. Like I'm not going to start them off with a squat clean. I'm going to start them off and have them go through air squats. And then if that's good, now let's add a little bit of load. So I can start off and I can control my intensity and start to feel how things go. Does that make sense? And I'm going to use like some actual feedback from the person as like, where are we going and how fast are we also going? Does that make sense? What I will say is if someone comes in and they have a like live injury, so like it's not, oh, in high school, that was 15 years ago, I tore an ACL, but I've been functioning in society since. And they come in and they're like, I played flag football on Saturday and I don't know, something's wrong with my knee. I think I tore my ACL. Then we're not going to even fuck with it. Like, okay, it's squat cleans today. We're going to do seated shoulder press. Like, I'm not even going to give them the ability to do a different drive. So I think just, it's kind of dumb to say, but using common sense and start people off with less intensity that they even personally think is okay with them and make them show and prove and feel before you give them those more complex, higher intensity, higher load type things.
Yeah, I
Does
wanted to
that make
say
sense?
something. Yep. So the conversation it needs to happen because it gives you like a baseline or an idea about the person, like how much they know about their affection or disease, how much are they taking care of it, or what are they doing? Because if someone tells me, oh, I have type 1 diabetes, okay, so is it controlled? And they don't really come with something, or like I have this problem on my knee and I am doing this, I will be more aware, like, okay, maybe this person is not really taking care of what's going on. Like we have one type 1 and he's like, yeah, I have a sensor, I have here, I have an alarm, so okay, I'm more relaxed about this person. But also if they have some kind of limitation, um they will have probably more psychological. So the first times that you look at them, it's like, okay, maybe I can put them a little bit more, I can push them a little bit more now. Let's see what's going on. Because sometimes it's like something that is being for months and it's just like a limitation in their mind by now. It's not really any more physical. And finally, if they are in good hands, because we've had some people with also problems, and I went to this traumatologist and he told me not to move at all. And I'm like, oh man, probably this one is like an old guy that is doing steel eyes and just limit everything and do nothing. And she changed. And the next one is like, okay, no, you need to keep moving. You need to start doing other stuff with other parts of your body, not only this. So definitely the conversation to see where everyone is and start from there, like being on your side, on their side, and everything.
And I think too that mental part of it is huge because I've had people that are actually hurt and you're like, no, dude, you cannot do this. And they're like, no, I'm going to do it. And it's just up here, they're good. And then I've had people that are truly not hurt. I have a client that I've worked with for the last 5, 6 years. I've told him to go to PTs multiple times, everything, and every person that just exercises him, he's like, oh, it made it worse. And truly, he's okay. It's extremely psychological to the point where he has gone to have surgery when they've told him there's nothing to do. So like two extreme cases, like you do have those people as well. You know, as coaches too, like even if you water it down to the most simple thing that my 100-year-old grandmother can do, and that's like where you want your starting point to be, do it. Like if someone has a knee and you're like, okay, it's running and squatting today, and you're like, we're gonna start off with a body weight box squat that's above parallel because they have to get off the couch, right? And we're just gonna walk across the gym and back, and that's my WOD. Then whatever, start there. And if they're like, oh, that's nothing, then you just grow from there. So that's how I would do that, because I would say more than probably half the people that come in, if you really dive in and ask them, they've had something at some point in their life that's bothered them. But yeah, we don't need to be like trying to diagnose and go too far. Just scale it, modify it, water it down a lot, and then just start to building block on that. Because you
And then
have
just
the
to jump in on that too. Sorry, Nate.
I was going to say, you just have the feedback for them as well, that if something feels weird, something hurts, or feels fine, that you work with. Go ahead, Elise.
Yeah, so another good like guide, Justin, is pain, right? So if you're putting him through warrior pose, for example, and you're dealing with someone that had ACL, okay? Yeah, it happened 15 years ago, but he hasn't really done any exercise or sports since. So probably he's stiff, he or she is stiff, and the quads are probably weak, which is common. So going into that warrior pose, they're gonna feel pain in that like anterior knee most likely. So it's like, okay, so obviously you just step back from that. If it's painful, then scale it down. If they're kind of like it's like a dull aching that they're feeling, you can work through that. When I work with my athletes for physical, like when we do PT and stuff, I'm always asking, is it a sharp pain or is it a dull ache? Sharp pain, I cut it back, scale it down. If it's a dull aching pain, I just keep it where it is and keep asking, is it still dull? Is it still dull? And just keep asking for their feedback. And then just sticking with the knee and the shoulder. Usually anyone that has had surgery, their range of motion is going to be limited. So for the knee flexion, for shoulder, going up overhead, or downward dog, let's say, that's probably going to cause a little bit of pain because they're restricted and tight. So obviously, yes, yoga would be beneficial for them, but then just scale it back and then just start them like beginner status. Always err on the side of caution. And like Nate and Jose said, just like build a base and just build up from there.
Yeah, I think if you're taking the approach of like extreme caution, and then like Elise said, you're constantly checking in. Like if you ever take my class and someone that had an injury or said something's bothered them, they probably get annoyed by me because I probably check in with them 35 times. Like literally every time I'm in the vicinity, I'm asking them, is whatever okay? Then I think you're doing your job. So definitely like side of caution, super scale things and let them grow into it. Some people are going to grow faster than others. Some people are going to be like, nope, I'm fine with walking across the gym and doing body weight back squats because I want to see how I'm going to feel tomorrow. And if that's the case, great. Even if they feel like they don't get a workout in, that's okay, because at least we didn't go on the other side of it and re-injure or whatever. In general, I think with especially people who haven't been working out, sometimes men will lie and say they're working out. Women don't typically do it as much. But people who haven't been working out, they're super deconditioned, they're coming into the gym for the first time. We should be already scaling on the side of so much caution, because you also don't want them to just wake up tomorrow, even if they're injury free, and feel like they got hit by a train. Because then a lot of people are going to take 3-4 days off. They're not moving, so they stay sore, and then they question, that was too much. And I think CrossFit may not be for me. So super scale them, and then tell them, dude, if you feel fine tomorrow, we're going to bump it up a little bit. But this week is so you just learn about CrossFit, understand what it is, what the class is like, and we're going to grow from there. that I think is also very crucial when you especially have a new person walking in the door as well. I've had dudes roll their eyes in my face when I'm forcing them to super scale and then have them tap out on the workout. It's still harder than they think it is most of the time when they've never been exposed. Does that answer your question, Justin? You did a whole lot of talking.
Yeah, I mean, it's the conversation has to be like how both. Well, let me first say the two medical professionals on this call both have good insight on how to address this kind of question, but in reality, most of the coaches have not had that kind of experience in that field.
Heard that.
But even if I had the knowledge that Elise just kind of like provided, it's like the ideal situation. You get into the class, maybe it's only 5 people. One new student comes in 10 minutes before class starts, so you can have that perfect conversation. You're not rushed,
And someone comes in 2 minutes late.
Yeah, but in my situation, it's like this new person comes in 2 minutes after class starts. We're already in the warm up phase. I see she's like a little bit limited or whatever, and it's at this point, it's like you're in the Metcon. Like there's no stopping and having a conversation. It's like we're in it, and I just see someone's limited. I'm like, take
All right,
it
I got something
easy,
for you
chill a
there.
little bit. You could take it. You don't have to go so hard. You could skip some of these vinyasas or chaturangas, whatever. So it's, but from a
from the
Metcon
coach,
standpoint, I want to hear that.
from like the coach and like CrossFit coach side of it, because I know yoga is a little different, like on the flow of class. Like I'm gonna have opportunities to like go over to that person, and even if they are late, to have a quick little conversation. Like even if we're in the middle of the warm up, like and it's a very dynamic warm up, I'm still gonna go stand by them and have a one-on-one chat real quick. Obviously, if it's a member and we know them, I don't need to do that because I already know about them. But if it's someone I haven't met, especially, like at the least I need to do is go over there and be like, "Hi, I'm the coach. What's your name?" type joint, and that's just going to open up convo anyway. But I'll have a quick conversation with them, and then this is where planning and lesson planning is huge, and a lot of people don't really always like skip it, and you kind of just go with like basic scaling options. Let's say for Mayhem, we have Isabel today, right? And we're cycling a barbell. So let's say I know I've got a complex movement, I've got a very fast paced workout, and I've got someone that comes in and they're like, I can't snatch a barbell. They're 2 minutes late, they're a free trial. They told me they have a torn rotator cuff, so I know they're not snatching a barbell today. I need to have a plan in my back pocket already that what am I going to have that person do? Does that make sense? And that would be in my lesson planning, that if I have someone come in that can't use their right arm at all and it's a barbell snatch day, that we're going to do dumbbell snatch on the left arm. 30 dumbbell snatches isn't going to be very tough. So maybe I do a dumbbell snatch into a push press for a rep. So I like even get a little creative with it. So having like those like backups in there, especially as a CrossFit coach, can be how you can save yourself automatically with that. And being exposed to those situations, and like being in the fire, you learn through that as well. Like I had a guy walk into my first gym I ever coached at. He was actually a Lululemon ambassador at one point in time. Can't remember his name, but he was like a cyclist, and he had no arms. Like nothing in no, right? And he walked into a class that had burpees that day. And that was like, oh shit, like what do I give this guy type thing? And I was a very new coach. It wasn't planned. No one warned me he was coming. He came at class time. So, you do have situations like that do arise sometimes, and just having those little back pocket things.
What did
can
you
make a
give
big
him?
difference. Crazy enough, he was very insistent on doing burpees, and he did burpees.
That's
we cut,
insane.
it was like 20 a round or something. We cut it down. He did 5. But yeah, he was like, what if I fall with him? He was 100%
That's
right.
true.
He needed to know how to get off the ground, and he did.
Very
Yeah.
true.
But
What about
from
that?
there,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, what about that time that you had I think it was a deaf girl that came in?
That's another really good example, like 100% deaf. So I had a separate whiteboard for her with written instruction. Luckily I knew she was coming, but I had written instruction for her. And then that was a day that really nothing really changed, because if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm demoing everything that we're doing, she should be able to follow along. So that was a part of it. The only thing I would do is I would demo, and then I would look at her and be like 10. I would just give her a number, and that's how I did that. So those things do arise. Having these little plans can really save you as a coach. But I would still take the time and walk over during your general warm up and be like, "Hey, I'm Nate. How you doing? Like, welcome." Like, make them feel welcome. Be like, "Is there anything that's bothering you? Discomforts, old injuries, like anything I need to know about?" And I would just do that quick check-in. It takes, it's going to take 20, 30 seconds. Cool. So we have the informed consent. So that's both parties exchanging information, basically. The liability, they're assuming the risk that they're taking for exercising. One of the articles also had like a photo and video release, which that can be an important one. I don't know if you guys have ever had someone in class that's like, "I'm not signing that." I've had a couple people that are like, "I am not signing that. I never want to be, picture taken, social media." And it's just something you have to be aware of the coach. Usually when I have that person in class, I don't take any pictures of the class at all. So I have no risk of it. But you don't know why. So like, that's not a question to ask. I would say just they maybe can't be seen. I've had some like celebrities that don't want their picture taken either, because they don't want people showing up. I would call them influencers. They don't want people showing up. We had one at Riptide for a little bit, actually. Do you remember her, Elise? The one that got sued? Yeah.
Yep. I think she's back, actually.
Is she?
Yeah.
She going to the gym?
Yeah. She joined back up.
Who is it?
Oh, I could probably say it's public knowledge.
Yeah.
It's on the
Tasha.
internet.
Tasha Kibi, how you say your last name?
I have no idea. She has a podcast. It's a dramatic podcast, and she got sued by Cardi B for slander, and Cardi B just rang her in court. So I think she owes Cardi B 7 million or something like that. So you have people like that. Like, she doesn't want. I'm pretty sure it was her. She didn't want her picture being posted on social media, because obviously people know who she is. So just being aware of stuff like that. A lot of that should come from the gym owner, right? A lot of those policies need to be in play, need to be easy. Like Justin was saying, you have people walk in 2 minutes late. Like, we need easy access to those things. Most of the time it's Wodify or whatever app system the gym's using now. Technology is great for that. But I also do think it can be a savior to have a few printed copies in person, especially for that person that's super late. That way you can just pull it out and be like, "Here." Every gym I've been a part of, not the one I'm at right now, but every gym I've been a part of, I've seen people come in that are late and the owner be like, "We'll sign it after." Like, probably everything's going to be fine, but in the event that it's not, you just shot yourself, and it's like a death wish if it's the wrong person. So make sure you get that stuff. And like, if you're coaching class, even though you may have seen the owner do it, don't take that risk, because the first thing they're going to do is point their finger at you. Why didn't you have them sign it? So always have them do it, even if it's going to delay things. Like, protect yourself. The other thing, friends. One of the articles talked about friends, family, stuff like that. Still have them sign stuff. Still have that there. Some of the only little dramatic things I've had, and luckily they were nothing, have all been from someone that was my friend. All of them. And before I started coaching my old employment, one of the biggest issues we ever had, that we had to go to court and everything, was from someone that was a really good friend of the owners, didn't get something they wanted, and decided to come after the business. So even though it's someone you're super cool with, just have them do it anyway. And blame the gym. Be like, it's just policy. I just have to have them do it anyway, what if it makes you uncomfortable. So just to be aware of like that stuff too. That all makes sense? Cool. Here's where us on the floor, it starts to make a big difference. All of this gets thrown out of the window if we have any kind of negligence, right? So as a coach, like, that's what we're dealing with on a daily basis, and that's our job to uphold, and more of where I want to spend more time. So if someone gets hurt, someone falls off a box, like all these things, and they can be like, yeah, but Nate had a kettlebell behind my box and I tripped over the kettlebell. They could probably point the finger at me for being in the wrong there. So I want you guys to think out of the box. I don't want to just like rattle things off. What are some other things that if an event happened that they could be like, yeah, you did that and that was your fault? We see some that happen all the time. Think of
Pull-up
equipment.
bar, and then there's a box. There's a box underneath the pull-up bar because
Huge
someone's
one.
short. And it's like
Huge.
usually like it's not off to the side and they slip off the bar, then they fall back and land on it or hit their head or something.
Yep, I would say that's the most common one. And members don't know. They're always going to take the box. They're going to put it down. They're going to stand on it. They're going to go up on the bar. And then especially when we're doing dynamic and kipping and all these things. So looking at box placement is going to be huge. Like that's one I think they can immediately point your finger and be like, why was that there? With the box, be aware, especially like you guys that are in smaller gyms, be aware that like someone may put a box down and it may be in the perfect spot to not affect them, but it may affect someone else. So look at those structures as well. So box is a good one. What's something else?
Gym flooring.
Flooring. Yep.
If it's like uneven or it's like angling up because the glue isn't staying down, someone trips on that and lands on their
Yep.
barbell, lands on the
Cracks.
box.
Cracks in the mat, crooked, not even flooring, all those things. That would be if someone tripped and fell and hurt themselves, that would be an easy day, I think. All you need is probably a couple quick pictures on a cell phone and you are good to go. So flooring's gonna be a big one. Flooring leads me to equipment. That was a big thing when I managed Globo Gym at one point in time. Well, I was a maintenance manager, and one of the big things was constantly checking different equipment to make sure the equipment wasn't faulty. So like if you think of a Globo Gym, we have like the cable pull downs and things like that, like making sure those cables weren't fraying, because some dudes are loading that whole thing at the tops, like they can get for real hurt. So in a CrossFit gym, equipment is like dumbbells are a good example. You guys ever pick up a dumbbell and you can feel that it's about to break and it's like a little wobbly? Like I put those in the side. I don't put those back in rotation because imagine someone's doing a dumbbell snatch and the dumbbell breaks and hits them in the head. Like it could kill them technically. So being aware of that stuff and just like equipment as coaches and trainers can be a big one. Rigs coming out of the wall, that happens sometimes.
Extra long ropes.
That's a big one. Yeah, the ropes is an interesting one. I think the ropes probably could be definitely a big one. Like if you say someone broke their ankle and because they came down off of a rope climb and stepped on it, and you can say, how could that have been prevented if the gym just cut it? That would probably be a pretty easy one as well. So yeah, checking equipment, making sure that none of it's faulty. Barbells don't typically break in CrossFit gyms because we actually buy quality barbells, but like even shit like that. But imagine like you guys ever see the cracked plates when the high temp plates start to crack through and eventually they'll literally split open, like stuff like that, get it out of rotation. Because if one side cracks and the other side doesn't crack and someone's overhead, something that's going to be weird. And it's going to fall. So stuff like anything like that. So when you do come across it as a coach, put it to the side and tell the gym owner, like, don't risk yourself. Let them know. And if they decide to be dumb, that's them. It's their business. What's some other things that could get a little weird sometimes? Your layout. So even though group management is like going to be a part of our 6 criteria for effective coaching, like group management is not only just that, it's also safety. So, taking the time to put athletes where you want to put them, or saying like, okay, the kettlebells are going to go in this row and then the boxes are going to go in this row. Like it can be kind of annoying sometimes, but from a coaching standpoint, it's going to improve your coaching because things are more organized. But then from an athlete flow and safety standpoint, going to be super important. People love to put objects like by their box, right behind their box. I've seen people put like dumbbells under their barbells. So just like wild things like that, we have to be aware of. Also situations like, let's say someone's doing a squat snatch and they have terrible mobility. And we've talked about putting a plate under their feet so they can overhead squat. Like that's one that we cannot have those plates under their feet when they're snatching. So it's like almost like we're picking something to work on that day. We either snatch or we'll go ahead and have those plates there and we work on your overhead squat. So don't be afraid to like really modify somebody if like safety and footwork is going to be a concern there as well. So out of all of this stuff, all of this stuff should be laid out for you. And if you're eventually going to become a gym owner, obviously you need to know, and you need to know for level 3 if you ever get there. But all of the written stuff, obviously an attorney should be going through it because each state will be different. But the stuff that's happening on the floor is directly our responsibility. So even if all the paperwork is perfect, and then like I do something dumb like one of these things, like it's kind of on me. Like I should have been aware of that. I'm the coach. I'm controlling class. Is there any questions on that stuff? Start to just look around the room and look for those things. Even when you're not coaching, look for those issues happening. A huge one is when we're Olympic weightlifting plates. Or when someone's squatting heavy and they have plates on the floor. Like if they bail, is that barbell going to hit those plates? Like that's a really easy one. You'll see that all the time. You can correct it, let someone know, and just guide them through stuff like that. Level 4, for example, for the group management aspect has its own tab on safety. And it's like the layout, how I lay things out. Could it prompt any risk for anybody getting hurt, running into each other? And then on a second one with the layout, did it ever inhibit the flow of the athlete as well? So, I mean, that is, you know, a major part of what we do. Any questions, thoughts, comments on that?
In malapraxis, in negligence in the medical field, if you prove that it's imprudence, incompetence, you can also win the thing. So basically, if you can use the same on this one, if you give a
If you
bad
can prove like the coach
prescription,
wasn't qualified.
yeah, no, if you say like he gave me a bad prescription for my abilities, like if you push them too hard, like you could also be, if you applied in this, well, in this one too, like he was incompetent because he showed that he didn't manage threshold, because he was imprudent by asking me to do this during the workout. So if you show these two factors, you can say that someone is negligent in their
Absolutely
if it's
correct.
if you using the same laws for like,
I think it would apply because like what do we have CrossFit? If I give somebody rhabdo and they can come after me and go, I've never worked out before and this guy made me do this, and it would kind of show that I wasn't modifying and like scaling that person appropriately. You know what I
right,
mean? So I'm sure it applies.
that's the one thing that it was missed there. That's like it should prove that it gets you some damage.
I caused something by giving them the
Yeah.
prescription. Yeah, and that's why I always like when I have somebody start out, and I've had people annoyed as hell with me, but like I don't care because like you're actually in my care for the hour. Isabel's a great example today. Like I've had people do Isabel with an empty barbell and they hang on for all 30 reps and they look at me like I'm crazy when they do it in 90 seconds. And I'm like, awesome. Next time we can add load now and you're gonna try to beat that again. And it's fine because I needed to see them be able to display that to me. And you know, most of the time that's going to be a brand new person. Like it's not a big deal. They're still going to probably be sore tomorrow from hinging 30 times. So that's why I always take that route of caution for Jose's point as well. So we got equipment to look at, our layout to look at. What's like another one that happens probably every day 5 times that we need to be aware of? What about the person getting to class too late? Like if I have someone that comes into class too late and I'm kind of like, just jump in, right? And let's say we're already loading barbells and doing things like that, and they try to do it and they happen to get hurt, that would be an easy one. Coach didn't even have me warm up, right? And no one's gonna care that he was 10 minutes late. They're gonna care that I didn't have them warm up. This is a tricky one because I think when you have someone that's late, you don't know what their day's been like. They could have had the worst day of their life, and all they want to do is make it to CrossFit. Someone could have rear-ended them on their way to the gym, and that's why they're late. So like getting there, I'm not going to kick them out of class and tell them they can't do it. But if we're already moving, then I may hand them a PVC pipe and be like, we're going to go through X amount of reps of this PVC pipe before you pick up the barbell. I don't want to exclude them and be like, go assault bike and burpee until you get warm, because like no one wants to do that. That's going to make their day worse. But I'm going to make sure that I control what they're doing before they start to load, before they start to get super dynamic, stuff like that. Does that make sense? And I always use the statement, we're going to do this for a little to kind of warm you up and catch you up. And then I'll tell them, don't worry about the EMOM. Or like, let's say like today for Mayhem, there's an EMOM and then there's Isabel. Don't worry about the EMOM. Let's just warm up while they're moving. Let's hit Isabel. And then if you want to, do half the next class and finish the EMOM. So like kind of giving them those options as well. So that way I'm not just throwing them into the fire and potentially risking anything like that. That's a tricky one, because you're trying to balance and give them a good experience, but you're also trying not to be dead. So you're kind of balancing those two and making sure they get where they need to go. My gym owner, actually, before she got into CrossFit, a lady came after her for that exact reason. She jumped into class too fast and tried to blame it, got hurt, tried to blame it on women. So it happens. Questions on that?
What was the outcome? Did she
Oh,
get
I didn't
sued?
ask. She did, but I didn't ask the outcome. If they don't want to tell me, I don't like to pry and stuff like that. But it was a good learning lesson. She did share that happened. It was long before she was in the CrossFit. When she's doing like she's doing like small group personal training, and the person was late to like getting to the small group basically.
But
Now I'm curious.
did she like tell her, no, you shouldn't come in, or you should do something
She
else?
let her join. She let her join. I didn't ask if like she had her just hop in to load and stuff like that, but the lady did end up getting hurt in that session somehow. Yeah, she came after her. So I didn't want to pry and ask a bunch of questions because you don't know how bad or deep that could get in that situation either. So yeah, let them join in, control what they do so they do get a warm up and they do get it. They probably don't need that much. So like on a snatch day today, if I put them PVC pipe and we work through a progression with the PVC, or the first 2 or 3 rounds of the EMOM, they do a PVC and an empty barbell, like that should be pretty fine. Or you can even give them movements in the EMOM so they're moving with class, but it's a little different than like the complex movement that you're doing. So they have like their task, and you at least gave it to them. If that person wants to blow you a big fucking bubble, and you give them this warm up and you're like, this is what I want you to do, and they're just not going to do it, you at least did your job in that. Because I mean, that's going to happen too when someone's like, shh, get out of here. But deliver your job is what I'm getting at. I had a guy yesterday doing air squats, and his heels were probably that far apart. So he was squatting like a ballerina, and I told him to widen his feet. And he went shh and rolled his eyes at me. So like you are going to get people that think they know better than you, and it's going to happen, and it's okay. Coach them anyway. Eventually they'll probably get annoyed and widen their feet, and he did.
Were you
Anything you guys have? I was. So I'm practicing on being very relentless. Because in my feedback for level 4, that was one of the big reasons I failed, was like, you're just not relentless enough, specifically in the Metcon. So I think for all of us, if I watched any of our classes, I would probably say we're not relentless enough either. Because it is kind of uncomfortable to be constantly cueing and correcting giving to the
Right.
person.
You just
It-
want, like, even if I'm doing it, I don't want you to be all over me during the Metcon. Like, let me
Same.
just do it.
So it's something I'm practicing more for me and getting used to not being uncomfortable with that. But I do think I definitely still have to operate at a line to know when to stop. So like our workout yesterday was 30-minute interval. Like I probably viewed incorrect and was lightly relentless for the first 20. The last 10 minutes, everyone's just surviving. So that was when I became more of a cheerleader to push. So like knowing where you're at in the WODs too, I think can make a difference as well. Like I'm not going to smack somebody with 2 minutes left of the workout because they're a little toesy. They're going to be like, get away from me. I'm down. So I think knowing when to apply it as well. And the approach, each person's going to be a lot different too. So they're going to respond to different cues. Some people only respond, I think, after you've given them some praise. So sometimes you kind of have to figure that out. Some people are a little more blunt and they're just like, tell me how it is, and they're fine with that. So learning each person too is a big factor in that. That's why I made the comment I think it was last week, that CrossFit had the saying, forging elite fitness. If you really, really think of it, our job as coaches is to actually forge that. Like we are literally molding the person to this elite fitness. So if we lose our relentlessness, I'm kind of doing a disservice to everybody, whether they want to hear it or not. That makes sense? Any thoughts on that?
I have a question related to people that come in late. Like, is there anything like, let's say they're like 15, 20 minutes late. You would
think
still
past-
give them,
I think past a certain time, there is a line that I'm like, hey, dude, come on. Like, what the fuck? Like, you need to wait to the next class. But then you have the situation that what if it's the last class of the day?
yeah,
Like, that becomes a factor as well. So if they're that late, I usually give them an option. If I have another class coming, I'll be like, hey, do you want to just wait till next class? Or since you're so far behind, I'll write you a quick EMOM workout or something
Yeah.
so you can get moving and you can hit it, that we don't have to worry about loading a barbell, being complex, things like that. And like
Yeah.
my EMOM's probably not going to be super fun. It may be like EMOM 15 alternating minutes of like bike burpees and air squats,
Yeah.
stuff they could warm up with anyway, to give them that option. Because sometimes you get someone that comes in 20 minutes late, you're like, this is super unsafe. You've already missed all the instruction. You have no idea what's going on. So beyond their own safety, now you're also a detriment to the rest of the class because people are going to be waiting for you. And I don't want to affect anybody else. So I'll give that like side option that I'm like, hey, if you got to get out of here and we need to go, I'll kick your ass in 10 minutes and you can go. And, just give them something very simple.
Mhm.
150 burpees for time, not fun, but it's a good workout, So like, if you always think about it, it can be very simple, but still very effective. Abs are always a good one to throw into something like that too. Like they're not going to hurt themselves doing abs, runs, ergs. Like they're not going to hurt themselves like doing that kind of stuff. Just, I would say things without load is what I would implement. And real quick, whiteboard jot, have that like simple WOD already in your head and use it. That's your go-to every time. Good question. I know my gym doesn't, like, she wants past 10 minutes. She wants us to like foot down. Absolutely not. You're not allowed in. Sometimes you are going to have owners that like, that is their policy. And they're like, I don't care. You uphold the policy. And if that case, it just makes it easy on you to be like, dude, I'm not allowed. Like, that's our policy. There's cameras just watching. Sorry, man. And I'll give them something on the side or have them go to the next class.
So what would happen if someone did that to you in your level 4?
They wouldn't even let them in, I don't think.
Really? Okay. Just curious.
Because like in that situation, like they have to also sign waivers. So like if you're coming to my level 4 class, not only do I have to sign stuff, well, I've already signed, but every person that comes in has to sign a bunch of shit also. Consenting that I'm this random Joe Schmo that CrossFit doesn't really actually know that I'm about to take them through. on the flip side of that, they also have the power to tell me to get the fuck out. So like if I did something that was gonna compromise safety and they felt it was enough, or I made a comment to someone that was inappropriate, they could fail me on spot and tell me to leave the gym, and I can't say anything about it. So they kind of have protection on both of them. But yeah, if someone was past the brief that they give before they start my clock, I don't think they would let them in. Just because of their own protection. But I do think
Yeah.
it would be an interesting curveball if they had someone that did it on purpose to see what happens. That would be a really good test for coaches. Don't give them that idea. I don't think they're that smart yet.
Huh.
That was a good question. All right. We kind of did take the hour. You guys have any other thoughts, statements on that? I did say we would have some time for extra questions or statements. If you have something that's unrelated to any of this, feel free to ask. We'll take the last 5 minutes.
I needed coaching so bad during the MetCon today of Isabel. It was such a disaster. The first 10 went great, and then the next 20 were so sloppy. I don't even want to look back at the recording. It was so bad, I'm not going to submit it. And I was like, damn, I need someone right now to tell me what I need to do.
What
so bad. So
did
bad.
you do 10 touch and go?
Yes, and I wasn't expecting to.
That's
I was like, I'm like, let me just try to do 5. And then all of a sudden I was like, 5 feels pretty good. I got the 10. And I was like, all right, we're gonna take my break here, and I'll try to knock out 5 and do 5s the rest of it.
This is what I would coach. This is what I would coach from a coaching perspective and from a very personal experience that I'll tell you guys a story on in a second. If you're planning to touch and go on like an Isabel, a Grace, we have Gwen, which Gwen has to be touch and go, so you don't have an option there. But if you're planning to touch and go on like an all barbell workout, especially DT is another one, go way lighter than you think you should go, is what I would say. Even if you're planning on doing like 10, 10, 10 touch and go with a quick break, if you did 10 at 95 pounds or 75 pounds and you drop it and you went and you grab 10 again, you drop it and you do it again, it's still going to get incredibly painful. So go way lighter and test yourself with that. Like I've programmed myself unbroken Grace, and the plan was 95 pounds to see if I could do 30 and 95 pounds. And I got through it. It hurt so bad. And then I was like, okay, next week, maybe we'll try 105 or 115. So if you're ever going to get ballsy, have yourself incrementally get ballsy with it.
I don't know if we see that here like a while ago that it's like a good coach will give you a prescription to do, but like a great one will give you an intention. So it will be like, hey Justin, I know you can move like this. Your intention for today is going to be actually force yourself doing singles, but count the same seconds between reps. So it's like your prescription is okay, 95 pounds, but your intention for today is to defeat yourself on 3 seconds, go. 3 seconds, go.
So what I did when I coached Isabel, I coached the 9 a.m. here. When I coached it this morning, we did the lifting, which doesn't really relate so much to Isabel because it was squat snatches, it was high hang, it was a little different. But after that, I had them go ahead and load the bar to what they were thinking for Isabel, and we did a test run. So I had them do 6 touch and go snatches, and then I had them gauge how that 6 felt. And I told them 1 through 10, if you were under a 7, like how you dropped that bar and felt, and you could do them unbroken, then we'll leave the load. If you just did the 6 unbroken, but you're a little gassed and you're over a 7 of like toughness, then we need to lighten the load. So I kind of gave them a test run, and then we went to the bathroom, we did all this stuff, and then I advised them do sets of 5. When you drop the bar, don't let more than 10 seconds run off the clock until you pick it up in another set of 5. And then if you get to 20 and you're feeling great, that's when you go. Don't do it before 20. So I tried to give like these parameters for it as well. And then you're going to have athletes that I've done Isabel 8 times probably. So I know exactly how Isabel feels and know exactly what the RX weight feels like. So you'll have athletes that can also make those choices there too. But especially if you've only done it once or twice or never, and you're intentionally going touch and go, or your coach is telling you to touch and go, Be cautious is what I would say. My fast Isabel story. Went to an event. It was 9 different gyms, and it wasn't a competition, but it was just all these gyms throwing down, and it was all benchmark curls. People signed up for what benchmark curl they wanted to do. At the time, I had a 211 RX Isabel. So I'm like, for sure doing Isabel. It's super fast. I'm good at it. It doesn't hurt that bad. Let's go. So I sign up for Isabel. And as we're warming up, like my plan was 30 fast singles. I know I'm fast at it. I know I'm not going to blow up. This guy walks in with cowboy boots, jeans, and a cut off flannel shirt that's buttoned up, a cowboy hat on, and a huge lip in, like a lip that you can like see it on his face. And that guy goes right up to a barbell at 135. It's 3 snatches and goes, I'm ready. I was offended. I was like, fuck this guy. I'm gonna beat him. So 3, 2, 1, go. I threw my plan completely out the window and I did 15 touch and go snatches at 135. Took maybe 30 to 40 seconds. I don't really know. And then the next 15 reps took 9 minutes.
Shit.
I was failing. I finished the last like 6 on squat snatches, just completely imploded.
Don't step
Meanwhile,
up to the legend.
Cowboy did 28 unbroken reps, dropped the bar, nodded his head at the room, and then did 2 and finished in 108,
God damn.
which I wasn't going to beat him to begin with. So just, yeah, it sucked. So just moral of the story, a plan can make a really, really big difference, and especially on a touch and go barbell. Like it'll make you implode like no other. You guys that are at SoFlo, ask Andrea Lopez today how Grace went when she did Grace at the box event. That was all the girls. That was her first RX Grace, and it was not good. But she should remember that. So yeah, just funny story, but good life lesson on it. When in doubt, break things up. And if you're going to hang on, go lighter than you think you should go. And if it feels too easy, hang on and go faster. It'll be hard in the end, I promise. I teach class that, and it works like a charm. Anything you guys want to wrap up with before we call it a day?
I do just want to say one thing. Just going back to like the liability and all that stuff. For you guys, your gym should have an AED. I would definitely check if your gym does have one, and it should be looked at and make sure the battery is working monthly. I am a certified Red Cross CPR instructor, so if you guys are interested in doing a class, let me know. I'll try to set one up and try to find like a place to get it done. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it's just it's just an overall good certification to have anyway, just for daily life, because you can be in a restaurant. God forbid someone can go down, at least you could be there to help. So if you guys are down, just message in the chat and I can try to get something rolling like in the summertime. So just let me know. Just
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
another thing to keep yourself covered too, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure in Florida now that the law was passed that facilities do have to have an AED. I think it depends on the size of the facility. So I think like Riptide, for example, is actually so small that it doesn't fit into the category, but that doesn't mean you should have it covered. I think if something did happen, like that person is going to have an argument, or their family. But I do think it's something that if you guys haven't done CPR and like AED, or it's been a very long time, it's worth doing. Tell your gym owner, because like even I think a lot of us on this call probably have it. But if your coworkers don't, or members, like it's good for members to know, like Elise said, you never know when some shit will go down. I had to Heimlich a guy on a toilet one time. So like you just never know. That's a true story. Yeah. He had crackers in his pocket. He decided to have a snack in that at the time and he choked. So you just don't know. Yeah, definitely checking it. But yeah, if you guys are interested, or your gym owner, let me or Elise know, and I'll get you connected with her, and we'll get something set up.
And then lastly,
I think members like that too when they see their coaches caring about shit like that.
Oh, for sure. Just going back to like protecting yourself also. you guys should have your own liability insurance. Because God forbid, if someone does come after you, you have the insurance. Obviously, they're going to go after the insurance because insurance has money. Like for me, obviously, I'm not a millionaire, so I have no money really to give. So the insurance policy is basically going to like protect you. God forbid, if someone does come after you.
Gonna protect your house.
Yeah. So, and then I already created my LLC. So like they can't come after me, they'll come after the company, but my LLC is under my personal liability insurance. I have a company that I use. I can put the name in the group chat for you guys. Pretty easy just to get quoted. It's on there as gym personal trainers, but it's still better to have than to not have. And it's an annual payment. So
It's not super expensive if I remember right. Last time I did it wasn't crazy.
no. So well, for me, like I do it
You
for
have
athletic
extra
training
probably.
as well. So mine's $1,000 a year just because I do a lot of per diem events when I travel. So that means that the liability insurance travels with me wherever I go. But since you guys are coaching in one place, I think it's only like 300, maybe.
I think last time I had it was even cheaper. I think I paid like 170 for an entire year. That was a while ago. But it is something to definitely think about and have. Also off topic from liability and risk and things like that. If you guys are 1099 coaches and you're not a W-2, it's worth having some kind of LLC or anything like that, because it can save you on tax a little bit later on. So just being aware of stuff like that as coaches, like I learned the hard way on that versus someone kind of giving me that advice. Ended up paying a shitload of taxes that I didn't need to pay. I could have saved some if I would have had it. So that's just stuff to talk about or to think about. And if you ever want to go down that route, and it's your own brand. I do think at the end of the day, having your own baby is worth it versus pouring into something else all the time. And then if you leave, you have nothing. Like, not that you're going to leave and you're going to have this empire, but it's just nice to have your own thing. Just making me think of that. Thanks for sharing that, Elise. Cool. Anybody else?
I had some ideas for some new topics.
Go ahead.
Strategies, or as Jose kind of framed it, intentions for different benchmarks. So giving me some better ideas of knowing how to approach, like Isabel, should I have gone like fives, singles, that kind of stuff.
Okay, I like that a lot. Let's snowball on that and turn that into a threshold training topic, because it's one thing I think to know, like we can memorize all the benchmark girls and to kind of know how to break them down. It's another thing to have a workout you have never seen before and know how to break that down, not only for yourselves, obviously, but also, you know, in our whiteboard brief, what things should feel like. So we'll turn that into like a threshold training. And then we'll do benchmark girls, but we'll also make some randos and we'll look at random workouts and like kind of play with coming up with what the stimulus is going to be, how to scale that, how to stay in the stimulus, things like that. So
That's even
we'll
better.
turn that into a broader.
I was suggesting benchmarks just because it was so narrow, but if you can keep it broad, it's even better. So that's cool.
Well, I would want you guys to develop the skill to be able to do that no matter what the workout's going to be, you know, to be able to look at it and be like, ooh, that's going to be a problem, versus nothing's worse than when you think something's fine and it punches you in the face and you're in a world of trouble. But then also as a coach, and I've seen this happen so many times, they give advice for a workout and I'm just like, that's not good. And then you get wafted and flowed along the class. So we need to be able to do that really good job, you know, relaying and doing that on our own, whether we're doing the workout or not. So we'll definitely do that. I also wanted to piggyback off of today and do like injuries. Kind of my thinking for that is like we're gonna always have injuries that are going to be in our class, whether they're previous, present, but also kind of turn it into like circumstances. Like we have a snatch today and this person, this wrong with them, what could you do? Because the other shitty part about injuries is I'll have an idea, but when it's pull-ups for the 7th time, have I had that person do a single arm ring row 7 times in a row? Or could I have gotten a little creative and make the experience and their training better for that? So I kind of want to look at injuries and how we can do that too. So we'll do that next week, and then we'll get into threshold training. Any other topics you guys want to see?
Yeah, in the coming months, and then you when you mentioned the 1099, I know we talk a lot about coaching, in the group setting, but transitioning to more of a private coaching and how that works with, navigating the relationship with the gym and the owner and then rates.
Yeah, we should definitely get into that. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I'll get into that. I'll kind of give some personal situations I've been into, as long as we won't record that. As long as it stays in the group, just so you guys have tools, because I've been on the end of really good deals and I've been on the end of really bad deals and everything in between. So that's a good one. Don't let me forget that. And building a clientele as well, right? Because you got to get clients to actually be in that situation. So some practices that I do that work pretty well with me that you maybe implement, because I'm a terrible salesman. I'm not good at it. I feel uncomfortable taking people's money, but it's something we have to get comfortable with because it's our living. That's a great one. All right, cool. If you guys do think of anything, you can text me in the group. If you don't want anybody to know where it came from, text me on the side. I don't care. That's fine as well. And we'll keep trucking along. Coming up, probably toward the end of May, more like June, I'm getting ready to like roll out a course, basically. I've designed a course that is intended to be the hour CrossFit class. And just like fine tune the components that are in a class. So like lesson planning, whiteboard brief, warm up, specific warm up, that kind of, all of that. I'm gonna open it up and give you guys in the group first option. In the first running for it, I'm gonna charge like virtually nothing. It's kind of gonna be a run through so I can fine tune things, stuff like that. It's gonna be a blend of written out literature, video, and then live calls. It's gonna be all three. For the first rollout, I'm not gonna have any quizzes or anything like that. I'm seeking more feedback from it. So I'll let you guys know when I officially like have that launch date, and it'll be a separate hour call for the week we're on. Each week is a different topic. So if any of you guys are interested in that,
I'm good.
jump on.
Thanks, man.
Because that was something I felt that I would have liked, especially like in prepping for level 4. Like I never had anybody put the class together for me. It was always in just separate pieces everywhere else, and me trying to put it together alone. So I'm trying to create something that's not quite fully out there yet in one course. So just let me know on that if you guys are interested. I'm only going to do like tops 5 or 6 people. So we're going to do a super small group first. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Send some bids, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. See y'all.